What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Loud Bostonian. Today, I'm going to be doing my review of the biopic Bohemian Rhapsody. Bohemian Rhapsody is the story of the classic rock band Queen and their incredible frontman, Freddie Mercury. I'm a pretty big fan of musical biopics. My favorite was Walk the Line. I know that's not popular with everybody, but just the backstory on Johnny Cash and, his life was really entertaining to me, and Joaquin Phoenix did a great job. So when they announced that they were doing this Queen biopic, and I'm a huge fan of Queen, I could not wait to see it. As soon as I found out that they cast Rami Malek to play Freddie Mercury, and I saw him in his getup, like looking like Freddie Mercury, I was like, oh my god, they nailed that casting. He looks just like him. So I was super on board, and I couldn't wait to see this story. This movie, from the beginning to the end, is quite the ride. Honestly, when I first started watching this movie, I didn't think that I liked it that much, because it's, like I said with comparisons to Walk the Line, the backstory of Johnny Cash is pretty tragic, so I was expecting a lot of emotional weight to be front-loaded in this movie to make you really care for Freddie Mercury and, his eventual joining of the rock band that becomes Queen. There's nothing like that at the beginning of this movie. Freddie Mercury comes from, a nice family. He comes from a decent upbringing. I mean, his family had to flee the country they originally came from, but since they've been in England, they have had a pretty good life, and he is just a typical teen. There's nothing too crazy about his backstory. So I was on board because I knew where the story was going to go, but in the beginning, it didn't really hit me with any of the feels. So I was a little concerned that this movie wasn't going to live up to anything. Now, obviously, as soon as he joins Queen, or they start Queen, the story takes off. You get to see a lot of backstory of them creating some of the most classic songs of all time, and that's just really good. That's when the movie really starts to shine. And then you also get to see some of the tribulations or trials and tribulations that affect them through the years. This is a great movie in terms of just staying with the band and staying with the songs and the performances and all the things that really made Queen Queen. I really think it hit it out of the park with that one. But again, a lot of the emotional stuff that you'd figured would be crammed into this doesn't happen until halfway through the movie. When the band's really big, when they have the first glimpses of Freddie Mercury, who to this point in his life was a closeted homosexual. So you don't really get to see any of that until about halfway through the movie. There's some nods to it, like he sees a guy go into a trucker bathroom and he kind of just eyes him a little bit, and that's the first inkling that there's something going on with Freddie Mercury that is not on the cover. And that stuff eventually works out into a pretty dramatic scene between him and his wife, Mary Austin, who is I forget who plays her. I don't remember who plays. I don't know the actress's name who plays her, but she does a great job, and they really have a great chemistry on screen. And she becomes basically his lifelong love. Not love in the sense of being together or anything like that, but he truly loves her so much, and she loves him, and they have a great chemistry. The chemistry between the band is fantastic. It's humorous. And they all have their own voices within the band, which is something that a lot of, if you were to look at Queen on the surface, you'd never suspect that Freddie Mercury wasn't the driving force behind the band. Because honestly, some of them, and at least in the movie they attribute this. I haven't looked into it, but a lot of the band members contribute a lot of the songs, which you wouldn't think. You'd think Freddie Mercury was the sole songwriter. He's not at all. Not at all. The other band members are super relevant in creating some of these most classic songs that Queen ever released, and they really show that, which is cool. And the band dynamic is great. Queen is made up of Freddie Mercury, Brian May, lead guitarist, Roger Taylor is the drummer, and John. Is it Dixon or is it Deacon? I think it's Deacon. John Deacon is the bassist. And John Deacon, by the way. The entire movie, I'm watching John Deacon on screen, or the actor playing John Deacon. I'm like, who the hell is this? I know this guy, and the whole movie I'm watching it. And literally, it wasn't until the last performance of the movie that you really get, not that you haven't seen the actor throughout the movie, but suddenly I get I was staring at him, and I was like, that's the kid from Jurassic Park. That is the kid from Jurassic Park. The kid who plays Tim in Jurassic Park, Joe Mazzello, is he plays the bassist in Queen, and so funny. The whole movie I'm watching, I'm like, where do I know this kid from? And suddenly it just popped, and it's so he does a pretty damn good performance too. He's not the obviously not the most relevant member of Queen, but his inputs to when some of the internal fighting of the band is really dramatic. It's really great. He just they did a great job of this movie of really showing that like this band was a foursome and that they all contributed and they all had a voice. I really like that. Now my personal favorite scene in the whole or in the through the first half of the movie is when they're constructing the song Bohemian Rhapsody. It's also one of my critiques because it's literally just a piano riff that Freddie figured out. Now, obviously in this movie, Rami Malek is not going to be singing Freddie Mercury songs or singing songs himself. He doesn't sound like Freddie Mercury, so it would be crazy to see that. However, there are certain scenes, especially in the Bohemian Rhapsody, where he literally is sitting at a piano, he came up with a piano riff, and then he's just singing Bohemian Rhapsody. Like, didn't write down the lyrics, he just comes up with the lyrics and sings the song perfectly the way that Freddie Mercury recorded it. And I think that was a little off-key. It took me out a little bit because there's no way that Freddie Mercury would just be singing that song, and maybe he played it 1,000 times before then. It really only shows you that one scene where he's by himself playing it, but he's singing it exactly as he recorded it, and it's definitely taken right from Freddie Mercury recording the song. So it was a little weird because I don't know the process Freddie Mercury had, but I can't imagine he was just belting out the song exactly as he recorded it when he was piecing it together. You know, I've written a few songs in my life, not to brag, they're not very good, but I never just come up exactly with how it is on the spot. Everything I've ever written has taken time. So there's no way that Freddie Mercury did it any differently. But that's my only gripe with the movie. That and the prosthetic teeth. The prosthetic teeth that they give Freddie Mercury in this, or they give Rami Malek in this movie, because Freddie Mercury notoriously had an overbite with pretty large teeth, and so in this movie they give Rami Malek these teeth, and I don't think he needed it. He looked enough like Freddie Mercury without it, and you can tell when he's delivering some of his lines that there's something going on. There's something in his something weird, and I didn't know his prosthetic teeth. I was like, why is he talking like this the whole movie? But then I found out later that it's a prosthetic, and that is just crazy. You didn't need it, I don't think. He looked enough like him with the mustache eventually. He looked enough like him when he had the long hair, and I don't think the movie needed it. That's just one thing the movie didn't need, and minor complaint. So anyways, like I said, when this movie really gets going, it's really when it jumps into the performances of Queen. And they have some crazy cool performances, and when they're writing their songs together, it's really good. But the whole movie dramatically builds up to the scenes where Freddie contracts AIDS. Now, you don't see him contract AIDS. You see him in a bunch of London gay clubs, and you assume that he gets it from, multiple partners that he was sleeping with at the time. All of that cultivates with him leaving Queen and going to do 2 solo records that he was going to do on his own. Breaks up the band, basically. But it's only for a year or so. I think it's a year. And in that time frame, he really hits his low, and this is where the emotional factor really kicks in this movie. And from this point on, the movie is phenomenal. So he hits his low factor. He has Mary Austin reaches out to him and tells him that the band wanted him to do this Live Aid performance, and he asks, what is Live Aid? He hasn't even heard of it, even though people have been reaching out to him for months about it. So he ends up getting back with Queen to do this Live Aid performance. He apologizes to them for everything that has gone wrong with Queen. It's all his fault. All this dramatic weight that you love, and they come back together as a band. And as they're rehearsing for their Live Aid performance, and the Live Aid performance, which is the most probably in rock and roll history, I think it is my favorite performance that any band has ever done ever. It is phenomenal when you realize what they did and what was going on behind the scenes to drive them to do this. So, anyways, Freddie gets back with the band, and as they're rehearsing for this Live Aid performance, he tells them that he has AIDS and that he's going to die, and he's basically just going to live his life, and he doesn't want the world to know. He just wants to go out being the songwriter and the performer that he is. So they get together for this Live Aid performance, which is one of the most classic, iconic looks of Freddie Mercury ever, with the wife beater and the chain spike bracelet around his arm here. And it was so good, guys. The last 20 minutes, so the Live Aid performance is literally a 20-minute performance. There's so many bands, they had 20 minutes to perform, and the movie sticks with them performing their Live Aid performance for I want to say 10 to 15 minutes, so it really feels like you got the whole performance, which is crazy. And it was so emotional at that point in the movie, guys, and it was so good. And this Live Aid thing, if you can look it up, like, the goal was to get all this money together to help out suffering Africans, and they were getting not a lot of donations or anything like that. But then Queen came on, and they fucking rocked the goddamn place. And people started calling in, and it was the thing that turned around the donations, at least in the UK, turned around the donations, and people were on board, and it was phenomenal. And it was such a high moment, guys. And the movie, this last performance, like I said, the movie drags in the beginning, not a lot of emotional weight. But when you get to that midsection of this movie, and it runs all the way through that Live Aid performance, I left that movie thinking that was one of the best biopics I ever saw. And it's because of that last performance and what led to it. It really makes the entire movie worth it, just to watch up to this one climax of them performing this Live Aid performance. It was so good, guys. It was so good. And I don't know if Rami Malek is going to get nominated for an Academy Award. I don't know if he even necessarily had such a great performance that he has to. But when he's being Freddie Mercury on stage, he is Freddie Mercury on stage. He has all his mannerisms down. He has his movements down. He looks phenomenal. The band looks phenomenal. And this is definitely my favorite biopic. Now, I'm a little biased because I'm a big classic rock fan, big, rock and roll fan. So considering this is the first biopic that I've seen that is set like this, obviously there's the Jimi Hendrix one that Andre 3000 did, and I never saw that, to be honest, so maybe that one's good too. But this one's massive, and it really, really hit home for me. I love this movie. I honestly am going to give it 8 out of 10 stars. I think it was fantastic. I highly recommend you guys go out and see it. Anyways, that's going to do it for me, guys. Please let me know in the comments what biopics you like the best out of, artists like this, or any really biopic. And let me know what your favorite Queen songs are. For me, I think that this movie has changed some of what my favorite Queen songs are, for sure. But anyways, let me know what your favorite Queen songs are. Let me know what your favorite biopics are. And let me know what you think of this movie if you've seen it. I highly recommend you run out and see it. Like the video, subscribe to my channel, and we'll catch you next week.